Up speaking next, we've got Shukufa Tahiri from the Hazara Youth Perspective. I'm going to invite you up to the stage, Shukufa.
Imagine living in a place where the air is filled with despair, misery, fear, injustice, hopelessness, and suffocation. A place where cry for justice is echoed from every length of its horizon. A place where there is no mercy, not even upon a mother and child, where the birds of freedom are caged, thoughts of flight snatched away, and the slightest glimpse of hope and illumination replaced with terror and fright. What would you do when hopes for protection completely dies and that you have no option but to give up everything in pursuit of safety? Have you ever wondered, living in a world where you are told your existence is a crime solely based on your ethnic identity and that your home be made a graveyard for you? What would you do? Would you stay and wait to be burnt in this fire? Have you ever wondered how it is like to be in a constant dread of a bomb exploding nearby? Being singled out and your fragile body hit with a bullet? And what would you do if you had no choice and were born into such unforgiving world? Being from a Hazara ethnic group who are from Afghanistan, a large proportion of whom, during the history, are made refugees to countries like Pakistan, Iran, where they have had to endure a century of long oppression in the hands of successive Afghan regimes, namely the Abdurrahman regime, late 1900, where 63% of them was mass murdered, looted, enslaved, and brought on the verge of extinction, and their only crime being their ethnicity and faith. The precedence of persecution and genocide still continues today in the presence of civilized nations, but transferred and inflicted on Hazaras in Pakistan, who are the very people that escaped the genocide back in Afghanistan. The conditions of Hazaras are such that these people are completely marginalized, immobilized in the small vicinity where they are left alone to die, whose demand for protection have been completely ignored by the Pakistani authority. The very people who are selflessly dedicated to education and peace are suffocated and paralyzed with fear. Some of them endure it, others run away and jump on a leaky boat, a journey towards safety, because there is still faith in the light at the end of the tunnel, and so hope is instilled at the core of their innocent hearts. To give up everything and pursue a sea journey as it is nothing compared to what they have seen in their own homes. In the recent boat tragedy, the deaths at sea in pursuit of security is tragic. But what is more tragic is Tony Abbott's and Scott Morrison's tactics to deter these people from knocking on our doors. Introduction of Operation Sovereign Borders, putting Australian Defence Force in charge of asylum border arrivals, treating them as a national threat. Reintroducing the temporary protection visas, TPVs, the revival of an extreme form of John Howard's policy, to which my father was subjected to as well for about 5 years, whose spirit was completely broken as a result. TPVs mean putting those 30,000 asylum seekers currently living in the community who are scarred with memories of persecution and who are faced with a future of uncertainty as a result, with a life in limbo, who will be deprived of family reunion and travel and ultimately degraded and disdained in the most tragic way. Expansion of regional detention centers like Nauru, the mental illness factories, while Labour's PNG deal is still in place, means proliferation of cruelty. Who will be held accountable for increasing suicide rates among the asylum seekers and their self-harm? And most disgracefully, Abbott's cruel intention of abolishment of judicial review, where asylum seekers' fate will be left upon the mercy of a single case officer. This will mean we'll be the first developed nation in the world to have snatched away the right of legal appeal from the most vulnerable, the refugees. At the other side of the world, where war has brought humanity to the edge, have we drifted so distant from humanity and moral compass that we are willingly ignoring the plight of a mother, a child, a father, a sibling who are pleadingly knocking on our door for safety? Not only are these policies deliberately departing Australia from the United Nations Convention that we signed up willingly and voluntarily, not only are these policies pushing us robustly back to a third world country, but in these policies that are stemming hatred, stereotypes, intolerance, division, segregation, and misconceptions in the Australian public. It is through these policies that Australian publics are being manipulated to see asylum seekers and boat arrivals as a threat, as illegals. It is indeed these policies, that political greed, that commodifies the most desperate and vulnerable human beings. But we can overcome this by rising above the narrow confines of Tony Abbott's to the broader concerns of all humanity and those of the desperate asylum seekers. Because injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And as Martin Luther King puts it, he who passively accepts evil is much involved in it as he who helps to perpetrate it. He who accepts evil without protesting against it is really cooperating with it. And in this civilized country like Australia, and in this democratic country, we can stamp out this inhumanity together. It's starting with me and you, because humanity indeed is measured by our attitude to the most at our mercy. Thank you very much.
Sally's been a supporter of refugee rights for